Welcome back to another one, Jeep fam. We are starting the Jeep build series. Basically, I'm going to go over a little overview of all the parts that I use to build the Jeep, and we're going to go over them one by one. So each episode in the series is going to be focused on one thing. And this time, we're going to be talking about the wheels. Let's get into it. Now, basically, there are a bunch of different wheel companies out there that make some really good wheels. Like there's Method Race wheels, there's Spider Lock wheels that I actually had before. I had those on my Duramax actually because I ran paddle tires on the back when I went to the dunes, and they worked really, really good. I liked them; they were really, really nice. But I ran into an issue with the wheels that I wanted for this Jeep. Because for one, I had to get obviously an 8 lug, so I had to find a company that made it in an 8 lug, which I run an 8x6.5 Chevrolet bolt pattern. Now, with that being said, that's not that hard to find, but I wanted them to be real beadlocks. And then I ran into another issue. I needed them to be a 20-inch wheel with a smooth face, a smooth barrel basically that came straight across and didn't have any dips or anything, as most wheels, when they're made, instead of having a smooth inside barrel, they'll actually have one that steps down. I couldn't have that. What's up, big man? All right, check it later. Anyways, so the reason I had to run a 20-inch wheel is because of my brakes. I wanted to run a 17-inch wheel. I really, really wanted to run a 17-inch wheel, but because that way I could have more sidewall for the tire. But unfortunately, the brakes that I'm running on the front, which will also be in another episode, which we'll probably do that in the next episode, so you guys can really understand why I needed to run a 20-inch wheel. They required me to run a 20-inch wheel. I could not run a 17 because my rotors alone are 16-inch rotors on the front. So I needed to run a 20-inch wheel. I needed to have a smooth inner barrel that wouldn't hit my caliper. So with a lot of searching and a lot of headaches, I found a company that would literally make me a set of wheels that were specifically designed to fit over the calipers and the rotors that I had. So what I ended up doing is contacting the brake company that I went with, and they were awesome. They sent me full blueprint of everything from the distance from the center bore to the top of the rotor to the top of the caliper, the width of the caliper, full dimensions, like full blueprint, and it was amazing. So I sent those over to the wheel company that I ended up finding, and they were like, "Oh, dude, yeah, we'll make you a set of wheels, no problem." And I was like, "Okay, I just need to make sure that it'll clear my caliper, but I don't want to go like, to a 21-inch wheel. Like I want it to be, or a 22. I want it to be as small as possible, which was the 20-inch wheel." So they're like, "Oh, dude, no problem. We got you. So I sent them over. They made me a set of wheels, and in about 4 to 5 weeks, they were at my door. I bought a set of 5. So I got 5 wheels that are all true beadlocks, and they were amazing. And the company I'm talking about is TR Beadlocks. Now, these guys have been around for a pretty long time, since 1997. And basically, I'm going to give you a little overview of this company, and then I'm going to get into the size that I ended up getting, and then I'll post some photos and stuff and show you basically what wheel I got and what ring I got, because there's 3 different styles of rings. And then also on top of that, I'll go over the full dimensions, specs, and everything of what I got, and then I will do some shots of it rolling, some slow motion, and on top of that, excuse me, on top of that, I didn't just get the wheel. I got the wheel, got it in the color that I wanted, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then we chose a different powder coat color. And basically, I had to take my brand new wheels that I just mounted the tires on and take the tires back off and send them to powder coat to get repowder coated to the color that they are now. And I'll show you before and after of what I actually received and the final product. Now, the previous powder coat that it came with, it was really good. It was amazing. Like, it was perfect. But we just chose a different color for everything else, so I had to switch out the wheels as well. I figured I already have the powder coat. Everything's going to powder coat anyways, because obviously I powder coated the axles, I powder coated the steering, powder coated the suspension links, I powder coated the cage, and I powder coated the fenders, so it wasn't that big of a deal to send the wheels. Everything was getting powder coated anyways, so it didn't really add to the additional cost because literally there was so much being powder coated, and it was the same color, so it was not like 12 different colors were going on. It was just 2 different colors, and certain things had to be certain colors and stuff like that. But all right, let's get into the basically history and little oversight of this company. I got my phone here because I obviously typed up a bunch of notes. TR Beadlock wheels, their production address is in Prineville, Oregon, but their custom wheel shop is in Mount Vernon, Washington. And I will show you guys exactly where that is right here. Now, they started in 1997, which a lot of people are like, oh yeah, 1997, that's a pretty long time ago. Well, being 2021, it is. Like, it makes you feel old when, like, you're like, oh yeah, 1997, that's a long time ago. But they use a flow form manufacturing process, which not a lot of companies do. I believe they are the only ones that do the flow form manufacturing process. Now, basically, I believe that means when they're making the barrel, there's usually only 1 or 2 like rollers basically that make contact to make the barrel. Well, these use I think 3 or more that are in constant contact to make the barrel. If I'm wrong on that, you guys can correct me. I kind of looked it up on Google to make sure I knew what the heck I was talking about, and basically that's what I got. So they're the top producer for military in aluminum wheels, which is pretty awesome. I don't know any vehicles in the military that use aluminum wheels besides like maybe their side-by-sides and some other lightweight vehicle stuff. Because I think the Humvees, the H1s and stuff, I think they use steel wheels. But I don't know. I'm not in the military. I don't know. But since January 1st of 2009, they offered a limited lifetime. No, it doesn't even say limited. I'm wrong. I lied. They offered a lifetime warranty on their HD series wheels that is non-transferable. So say I bought the wheels and I sold them to someone else, that warranty is null and void now. It would only work if they were still my wheels. But from what I'm guessing and what I read on here, if anything happens, they basically replace it. So that's pretty awesome. And they make a couple different kinds of wheels. They make a HD, I have their website right here on the laptop as well. They make a HD series cast beadlock wheel. They make a USA forged beadlock wheel. And then they do custom stuff. And then they do HD series for UTVs. And then they do a conversion beadlock wheel. So you can take a normal wheel, convert it to a beadlock. And then they do accessories and stuff like that, like valve stems and quick air down valves and stuff like that. But all of their wheels are DOT compliant, which even their beadlocks, but they still list on there intended for off-road use only because of tire variabilities, which unfortunately there's hundreds and hundreds and thousands of different tires out there. Like if you get a good quality tire, like a Mickey Thompson or the tires that I have, which are Maxxis, which I'll talk about all that stuff when we get into the tires. but basically they're generally very, very well made. Now you can get into some cheaper sides of the tires, and they may not have as nice of a sidewall or nice of a bead structure or anything like that. So there's just kind of variabilities there. Um, and you can refer to the site where these are made, which is in the US. But basically, okay, so where these are made is pretty cool because for 18 years, I'm reading this right off the website. For 18 years, TR Beadlock wheels was the only cast beadlock wheel made in the USA. In 2017, the foundry partner AEWC, by this time, the last aftermarket wheel foundry in the US, closed its doors. So they're like, oh, what do we do? And in order to keep it made in the US, they poured a huge amount of effort and money into a motorsports powersports foundry in the Midwest. But ultimately, they weren't able to meet the volume and quality requirements that TR Beadlocks wanted. So having exhausted the last possible domestic casting situation, they teamed up with MW Wheel. MW, operating as Weld Wheels, kind of a big name. They have a long history in U.S. wheel manufacturing, and basically that's where they are being made. And they offer a USA forged model that is 100% manufactured in the U.S., which is absolutely awesome. And they're backed with the same 1-year warranty, replacement warranty. So that is pretty cool because most companies, they will not do that. And on top of that, they generally aren't really made in the U.S., but these made in the U.S., which is a big thing for me. I wanted them to be made here in the U.S. because obviously I want to support U.S. companies, but also they're just a better quality wheel, and like that they're going to be a better quality wheel. And with the warranty that I got from them, it is top notch. And speaking of warranty, I have not had to use it obviously at all. Their wheels have done amazing so far. On the highway, there's no wobbling in the steering wheel. Like, I didn't balance my 40s, so there's no balancing beads, there's no sticky weights, there's nothing like that. Just put the tires on and put the beadlock ring on. Pop the rear side bead because I only have an outer beadlock. I don't have an inner as well. And they've done absolutely amazing. Now, let's get into the actual specs of the wheels that I got. So, the wheels that I got, they are the HD20 20 by 9.5 beadlock wheel. Now, the color that I got is a graphite powder coat, and the beadlock ring finish is a blue anodized powder coat, which I'll put a picture right here. And the beadlock hardware that I received and, chose is a Magni Black, a standard gold zinc, or the optional Magni Black. I chose the Magni Black because it matched up with the colors that I originally chose, which was a graphite and then a blue anodized powder coat. But then obviously I switched to a different color, and they still matched. I wasn't going to switch hardware. So now the beadlock ring style it's a real beadlock, and it is a World Series beadlock ring. And they make 3 different styles, which is they make a slim ring, they make a rock ring, and then they make a World Series ring. You guys, if you're going to look at these, you can obviously figure out which one's which. But I chose the World Series ring because it has little holes in towards the very bottom, towards the barrel of the wheel. So if water and sand and dirt and stuff gets in there, it has a better chance of actually flowing out. Now I will say, obviously, just with every other beadlock ring out there, it's gonna hold water. Like, it's not gonna flow out everything, and it's gonna hold water. But to solve that, take a rag or your t-shirt or whatever and, clean the water out if you want to do that. Now I got a 20 by 9.5 with a 8 by 6.5 bolt pattern. My back spacing is 5 inches, which I did that because of the axles that I'm running, and I wanted to keep my scrub angle and scrub radius and everything as tight as possible. I wanted to keep the wheels in as far as I could because obviously I am running 1-ton axles, which we'll get into that in another episode, but I wanted to keep them in as far as I could so that way as the suspension travels, I don't have, especially on the road, if you know you hit a bump and stuff and your angles are really, like you're having really big offset, you know, you can kind of get a little bit of death wobble going on, and I don't really want that. The reason for the size is obviously, as I stated, because of my brakes. I wanted to run a 17-inch wheel, but I just could not do that. And unfortunately, there's really not many wheel companies out there making a 20-inch beadlock wheel. And there was a couple pages on Facebook. I posted on there, I said, hey, does anyone know of a 20-inch real beadlock wheel? And people just tore me up in the comments. They were like, oh, why do you want to run a 20-inch wheel? That's stupid. Mall crawler, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, because I'm running man brakes. That's it. Running man brakes. Sorry. I'm not like all these guys out here that are putting 20-inch wheels that never touch their brake system. Like, I put man brakes on this thing because obviously my family's in it. Added a lot of weight. The Jeep probably weighs close to 7,000, if not more pounds, because of the full cage, the 1 tons, you know, the 40s now, having a spare tire, plus all of our gear and everything else. It's probably closer to 7,500 pounds, and which I should probably take across the scale to see exactly how much it weighs when it's fully loaded. It'd be interesting to see how much it actually weighs. But anyways, so I was really discouraged when that happened because I was like, you know, I'm never going to find a wheel that's going to do this. I'm going to have to switch the brakes that I don't want to and run something smaller. And I really didn't want to because I knew adding that much weight, I wanted to be able to make sure I could stop on a dime. And speaking of that, it will stop on a dime. I locked up the 40s a couple days ago, slamming on my brakes when someone pulled out in front of me. And it will also, even with the little 3.6 in there, and I got the manual 6-speed, it will chirp the 40s going into second gear. I'm just saying, it's pretty wild. But the color change. Now, the color change, I decided that I wanted to match everything else that I was going with. And the powder coat company that I use is Prismatic Powders, and this is the colors I went with to obviously match everything else. Now, the next series is going to be covering the powder coat so you guys can get an overview, and that'll be a really short one. It won't be very long because obviously it's just powder coat, so it's basically going to be talking about the powder coat, a little bit, obviously, history of that company and stuff like that. But basically, these are the wheels that I went with because they were the best all-around fit for everything that I wanted, and I knew I could trust them, and I knew I could count on them to get me and my family to the trails, on the trails, and back home. And with that being said, you never know what's going to happen. Crazy things happen for no reason. So I did get a spare. So I do have a full-size spare on the back of the Jeep with 40-inch tire, same tires I'm running, with the 20-inch wheel. So it can go on the front or the back, does not matter. The front and the rear are the same bolt pattern, so it does not matter at all. So basically, I'm set. Now, if something else happens where I lose 2 tires, screwed. But we'll have to figure it out if that ever happens. Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully it doesn't, because that would suck. But with that being said, guys, here are some pretty cool shots of the HD 20 by 9.5 wheels from TR Beadlocks.
Broken glass while I'm thinking in my head. I mind my own, I don't even break a sweat. Oh, this madness is insane. Why you still live in vain? I'm not the one, you're the victim of your own mistakes. It's sad to hear the lights under the street light.